Hi, we're going to take a quick look at top heavy fractions. It's going to be a fairly short video, just going over the basics of what we need to do. So, starting from basics, if we have this fraction, we're going to see how we can write it. So we do it a couple of ways. First things first, look at one of these images. This circle's chopped into 3, which means each of these segments coloured in represents a third. So if we look at the whole shape, we can see how many thirds we have. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can write this fraction as 8 thirds. However, there's another way we can do it. If we look at these two circles, they're fully coloured in. So we have 2 holes. So we say I've got 2 holes and I've got a bit left over. This isn't a full circle. Of this circle, I have 2 thirds. Cut them to thirds and I've got 2 of them. So this fraction is also 2 and 2 thirds. And this is the basic idea behind top heavy fractions. It's basically how do you convert from one to the other and back again. Okay, let's go through a couple of examples. So for the first example, I'm going to write everything as a mixed number. So it's going to look like something like 3.5, 4 1/3, 5 27. Part A, we have 5 over 2. That means we've got 5 halves. If you get really stuck, best thing to do is just do a really quick sketch. So I have some circles and I want to divide them all into halves. Let's just do 4 for now just in case I need them all. And I've got 5 halves. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this case, as a mixed number, I want to see how many whole circles I've got, which is 2, and how many I've got left, which is a half. So what I've done here, I've seen how many 2's go into 5, which then tells me how many whole number parts I've got, and any remainders, any left over, is going to go here. And I'm going to use that shortcut in B. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work out how many 3's go into 10. That will tell me how many holes I have. So 3's into 10 goes 3 times. And do I have any left over? Yeah, I do, because 3 3's are 9. So I've got 1 left over to make 10, which means I have 3 holes, and there was 1/3 left over. So if I drew it the same way I did for part A, I would have 3 full circles, and then 1 circle left over, with only 1/3 coloured in. Okay. Part C, awkward numbers. We're using that trick, is really straightforward. We're going to see how many 10's go into 81. So I know that 10 8's are going to be 80. So 8 10's are going to go into 81. And I'm going to have 1 left over. So it'll be 8 and 1 over 10. Okay, so for these questions, you are just doing division basically and seeing what remainder you are left with. On to the second half. This is slightly more fiddly, but not too much harder. We want to see the complete opposite. We now want to write these as top heavy fractions. So do what I did with part A for the last one. I'm going to draw it out. I have 1 full circle and I have half of a circle. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to chop this circle into halves as well, because I want to see how many halves do I have all together. In this case, it is 1, 2 and 3. Altogether, I have 3 halves because there are 2 halves in each hole. Okay, on to part B. Pretty much the same question. I've got 2.5. So rather than drawing shapes, let's try and think through what it's going to be. If I've got 2 holes, I want to see how many halves I can make up 2 holes. We know for each 1 hole I have, I can get 2 halves. So if I've got 2 holes, I can make 4 halves here. So I've got 4 halves here and 1 half here. And that gives me 5 halves altogether, or 5 over 2. Again, just to draw that as well, I had 2 holes, and I had 1 half. And for every single hole I had, I could cut it into 2 halves, which gave me 2, 4 and 5. So the shortcut, if you spotted it, all we need to do here is times these 2 numbers together. I'm going to do this times this, so 2 times 2, which gives me 4, and then add on this number. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 gives us 5. So let's try that same trick for part C. All we need to do is do 3 times 2, which gives us 6, and plus 1, gives us 7. So it's 7 over 2. And lastly, same trick again for part D. We're going to do 4 times 5 and then add on 3. 4 times 5 is 20, add on the 3 is 23, so it's going to be 23 over 5. Key thing to remember is make sure your denominators, your bottom numbers, never change from the question to the answer. So fifths, fifths, halves, halves, they should never change. That's the main mistake I see when going through these questions. Okay, some questions to try. You have some writing as mixed numbers and some right at top over fractions. Feel free to pause and give it a go, and I'll go for the answers in black in a second. Okay, answers to the questions in black are on the screen now. That's all I'm doing today, so just be a short video. Hope that made sense, and thanks for listening.